This video is an overview of the Municipality of Kings public mapping application, otherwise known as KMap. I will begin by highlighting the features that are available in KMap. On the left-hand side are the tools used to zoom in, zoom out, and move around the map. Along the top, on the right-hand side, are several buttons. If I hover my mouse over each one, a brief description will appear. More details will be discussed later in the video. Just below, you will see something called Base Map. When I hover the mouse over Base Map, two options appear, King's Base Map and Bing Aerial. When you first open KMap, King's Base Map will be visible, but this can be changed simply by selecting Bing Aerial. These can be toggled back and forth. And in addition, I can use the slider located at the bottom to get a mix of the two. For now, I am going to use King's Base Map. In the lower left corner is a scale bar that indicates distance. This will update as you change the scale of the map. So let's begin by looking at how you can zoom in, zoom out, and move around the map. There is a slider bar that has a plus sign and a minus sign. The minus sign indicates zoom out. The plus indicates zoom in. And as I continue to zoom in, more detailed information appears. I will now click on the minus sign to zoom out. Another method to zoom in and zoom out is using the two buttons at the bottom. I'm going to select the zoom in button. Notice that it is highlighted in yellow, indicating that it is active. I will now move over to the map. Click to start the area I want to zoom into and hold down my mouse. Draw a box and let go. The map will zoom in. The zoom out tool works the same way. I'm going to select it. It's highlighted in yellow. I'll click and hold down my mouse. Draw a box and let go, and the map will zoom out. There is also something called the pan tool. This allows me to move around the map in any direction without changing the scale. Select pan. It is now active. I click on the map, hold down my mouse, and drag to move the map. Click, drag, and let go. There are also a series of arrow keys located at the top. The two arrows in the middle allow me to move to a previous extent or the next extent. For example, I'm going to click Previous Extent, and it will take me to my last location. When I click Next Extent, it takes me back to where I started. These can be selected multiple times to areas I previously visited. The arrow keys at the top are pan tools. If I click the up arrow, it pans up. If I click to the right, it pans right. There are also buttons in between that will take me in that direction. In this case, I'm going southeast. And back to the slider for a minute. Instead of using the plus and minus signs, I can also use the slider to drag it up or down. So I can move it up to zoom in, or move it down to zoom out. In some cases, I may zoom out too far. If this happens, I can either use the slider bar or my other zoom tools to zoom in, or I can click on the full extent button, which is the globe icon, and that will take me to the extents of Kings County. Now let's start taking a look at each button located along the top. I'm going to start with Map Layers. I'm going to click on the icon to open the window. This window contains a list and legend of all available map layers. A few things to note. You can use the scroll bar located on the right-hand side to scroll down and view all of the available map layers. In addition, I can resize this window by holding down the lower right corner and dragging. Notice that some of the layers have check marks beside them. This is a toggle to turn a map layer on or off. In some cases, I may be zoomed out too far to view the features within the layer. This is indicated by a symbol just below the check mark. If this occurs, continue to either zoom in or select the arrow key to the right and click on Zoom to make visible. To view any map layer, simply check the box to turn the map layer on. Multiple layers can be made visible. The Map Layers window, or any window that is opened using the buttons along the top, can be minimized by selecting Minimize. To open the window back up, click on the icon. In addition, any window can be closed and reopened at any time. For now, I'm going to minimize my Map Layers window. Let's now take a look at the Search by Address button. I'm going to click to open, and I'm going to type in a civic number and street name to search. Click Locate. The map will update and zoom to the search result. Notice a score is reported. This is only an indicator of the match between what was typed in and the result that was found. A score of 100 would indicate a full civic address was entered, with a civic, a street name, and community name. In some cases, no results are found, usually as a result of spelling or how the address was entered. To help you, there are 3 main guidelines. When searching by an address located on a highway, always spell highway out. Don't use abbreviations. So for example, if I click on the mailbox icon, this will take me back to the address search. If I enter and click Locate, the result is stating it is not found. I'm going to now click on the mailbox icon again to take me back to Search by Address. And another tip is to use either a civic number and street name only, or just the street name. Don't include the street type. So for example, I'm going to do a search on just a street name and click Locate. This will return all civic addresses found on Tailfeather Court. If I go back to my search by address and I type out Court and click Locate, no results are found. If you do include the street type, use abbreviations only. These tips will appear if no results are found. In addition to the search by address, you can search by coordinates, latitude and longitude. To do this, select the coordinates icon. Default values are listed. I'm going to just accept these and click Locate. The map will update to that specific location. I will show you later how to find coordinates of a location. I'm now going to take a look at Identify Features, but before we open the window, I'm first going to search by an address. Going to close the Search by Address window and now click on Identify Features. The Identify Features button is used to obtain more information from the features you see on the map. Notice the Identify From is set to all layers. This means that all map layers that are set to visible in the Map Layers window will be reported back in the results. So let's review what map layers we have turned on. So I'm going to click on the icon to open Map Layers. I'm going to turn off this layer and turn on transit stops. Note that although both the civic address and road layers are turned on, no results will be included simply because the civic number and street names are already displayed. I'm going to now minimize the map layers window and go back to Identify Features. Notice the Identify point is highlighted in yellow. This means it is active and I can now click on a location on the map. Three features are found. If I click each one in the list, the map will update and zoom to that particular feature. Notice the icon found with the electoral boundary result. This is a link. If I hover the mouse over the icon, I can see a message that indicates what the link is about. If I click the link, a new window opens to the Municipality of King's website and provides information about the municipal councillor for that particular district. I can now close this window to return to KMap. Now that I can see the specific electoral district for the location I picked, I will click on the X and remove that result. I now see that I'm also in Polling Division 9B. If I click on the record, it zooms to the extent of that map feature. I can click the X to remove the result. And then I can go back to the property where I first started. Notice that although I have the bus stop's map layer turned on, it wasn't included in my results. This is because I used the Identify by point, which means that only the features found at the exact location I clicked on are included in the results. To include results for an area, I have to change my selection method. So I'm going to click on the Identify icon to go back. I can either use the Identify by rectangle, which uses a predefined area that you have no control over. Instead, I'm going to pick the Identify by area. This allows me to define the area I want to identify. So I'm going to zoom out a bit, and I'm going to start clicking on the area I want to identify and double click to finish. Notice I now have 7 results returned. Again, my electoral district 9, I'm going to remove. The polling division, I'm going to remove that result, in addition to each individual property that was found within the area I defined. And here is my bus stop. Sometimes it can be confusing when many results are returned. Another option, if you're specifically looking for one piece of information, is to go back to my Identify From and change the Identify From all layers to what I'm specifically looking for. I can then define the area again and double click, and I get the one result that I'm looking for. Also note that if I change the Identify results to a map layer that isn't visible, for example, administrative boundary, and I try to get information about that, no results are found. If I go back to my map layers and turn administrative boundary on and do my Identify again, I will get the result that I'm looking for. So I'm now going to close both the map layers and Identify results window, and we're now going to take a look at draw and measure. So I'm going to click to open. This tool allows you to add text and some basic symbols to the map. In addition, you can measure features. When you first open the window, the draw line is highlighted in yellow and therefore activated. I can now add a line to the map. I just click and drag to any area I want and double click to finish. I can change the color, the width, the style. Alpha represents transparency. To obtain measurements, I check the box next to Show Measurements and change distance units if desired. Going to change the font, make it bold, and increase the size. Now I need to set the draw line to make sure it is active, and click. And as you can see, my line has changed, and in addition I'm getting measurements. I can then double click to finish. There is also an option to add text. I'm going to click to activate. It is now highlighted in yellow, and I'm just going to enter some text. I'm going to change the font again, the color, the size, and I can set a rotation and make it underlined. And now if I move my mouse, it tells me to click to add a point. And there is my text. The Add Halo option adds a white outline to the text so that features underneath are masked out. This makes text more readable. Other symbols are added in a similar manner. Area measurements can be obtained using the Draw polygon. My Show Measurements is set on. I can change the distance units to meters and the area units to square meters. And now I can draw an area, and I will get the measurement results. Previously, I mentioned the ability to find coordinates of a specific location. This is possible using the Draw Point button. I'm going to click to activate Draw Point, and I'm going to click on the map. And once I click, the coordinates will label based on that location. There is an option to save the graphics I have just added to a file. This can be done using the Save Graphics Layer icon. This will create a file that can be loaded back into KMap at a later time using the Open Saved Graphics Layer icon. This is useful if I have saved a location and want to keep any notes or measurements I have created. I will explain how to save locations in a few minutes. So to clear all of the graphics, I simply select Clear Drawings. I'm going to close the Draw and Measure tool and now take a look at location bookmarks. So I'm going to click to open. Earlier you were introduced how to zoom in, zoom out, and move around the map. Location bookmarks are an easy way to go to a specific location within Kings County. These include a list of all growth centers and towns. I simply click on the area that I'm interested in. Custom bookmarks can be created by clicking on the Add Bookmark icon. So if I'm in an area that I want to save, I can click Add Bookmark. And add a name and click Add Bookmark. So if I go to a different area and want to go back, I simply select it and I'm back in that specific area. A number of new locations can be added and simply removed by clicking on the X next to each one. This is useful if you have an area of interest. You can create a bookmark, add the text and graphics you want, then save the graphics as a file. The next time you use KMap, you can use the bookmarks to find the location easily and then load the graphics file back in. So I'm going to close location bookmarks and now take a look at Kings Transit bus stops. Going to click to open. This contains a list of all transit bus stops in Kings County. I can select one of the results in the list, and the map will update to that particular location. There is also an option to search by bus stops within a community. So I'm going to select the search icon, and I'm going to type in the area I'm interested in and select search. This will return only the bus stops located within that community. So I click on the result, and the map will update and zoom to that location. And finally, the last button is called Map Information. This will open a new window to a document that contains more information about the map layers you find in KMap, in addition to links to other resources. And if you have any concerns with the information found in KMap, please send us an email at kmap@county.kings.ns.ca. That window can be closed at any time to return to KMap. This concludes the KMap information video. Thank you.